Today, we're gonna talk about one thing that's gonna make you a better editor. Now, I know when you get into the edit bay, you just want to start going after it and getting into the footage. Well, there is one thing that you need to do before you even start editing, and this is something that I think a lot of people just kind of skim over. And what that is going through and actually watching all your footage and understanding where all your footage is and what you have to work with. This is one of those things that if you do this before you start editing, you will be a much better editor. And the reason for this is when you actually go through your footage and watch all the shots and understand what kind of footage you have, then when it comes time to start editing, you have a better sense of what you can play with, what you can work with. You'll know exactly what you're looking for when you go to your bin of footage. And I know it's something that is super tedious, and I know it's something that a lot of us don't want to do. When we get into the edit bay, we want to start going after it and start cutting the cool shots together. But this is something that I learned from cutting other people's footage. And a lot of times as creators, we're shooting, we're editing, we're kind of doing everything for a video versus being like in one specific role. And so when you're working on bigger projects, when you have a team working together to create different content, that's when each person has a specific task and they have more time to focus on that task. When it comes to editors, the first thing that happens is the editor needs to organize and go through all the footage and understand what there is to work with. As a YouTuber, as a creator, as just someone who does like their own productions and you don't have a huge team, this is where a lot of people skip over this step. And I also think it's one reason why a lot of people suffer when they go to the edit bay. Now, when it comes to something like vlogging, if you're just shooting vlogs, a lot of times you're shooting beginning to end, and it's easy to just drop that in a timeline and just cut beginning to end. You don't necessarily need to know everything that you have in the footage, and because you shot it, you have an understanding of where everything goes and where the piece actually goes. But if you're doing something more like a travel film or something that's more of an experience film, a cinematic film, something that has footage from different days, different areas, different locations, and you're mixing it all together, that's where you need to really understand your footage. When you are working with footage from all over the place, you need to organize it and you need to see what you have. Because when you go through and start looking at all the different things that you have within your footage, you'll be able to start making connections and be able to start being more creative with what it is that you're working with, rather than relying on things like transitions, overlays, and all these like snazzy effects to try and make your footage look cool. Some of the best edits that you can make come from the footage next to each other, the specific shots chosen in succession versus the transitions and the overlays and on all that crazy stuff that you can do. Now, adding effects, adding transitions, doing all these cool kind of things you can do in post will enhance your project, but they're not gonna make your project awesome. And so that's one thing I really just wanted to stress in this video, is that understanding what footage you have and how it works together is more important than all the fancy stuff that you can do. And some of the best videos out there don't even have any of that like sexy transition work or overlays, whatever you want to do to your footage. Instead, they have a story. They have a way of putting pieces together where you just feel immersed. You feel engaged with the video versus just like watching the experience. So I highly suggest when you're getting into the edit bay, take a little bit of time, go through your clips. Even if you're just scrubbing through them and seeing every bit that's in there, you need to understand what footage you have. When you can step back and look at all your footage and be like, I know what's here, 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 I know how the story's gonna go, then you can basically edit before you even start editing. And what that is you're just creating the story, you're creating the path, you're creating the journey in your head, and then you're using the tools of your editing software and all that other stuff to basically tell that story. So when you're approaching your next video piece, I highly suggest taking a step back, look at all your clips, organize it so you understand where every piece of information is, and then get after it and see how much easier the edit is versus if you were to just jump right in and try to start editing. All right, guys, that's it. If you're new to this channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button. There's a lot of awesome filmmaking tutorials and camera reviews. Guys, this is part of my 30 days of filmmaking tutorials that I do every December. So if you haven't seen some of the other videos, make sure you check those out. I'll put a link down in the description. And guys, that's it. I'll see you in the next one.